Look at that. That is great. All right, guys. So I am excited tonight to introduce to you Jay Sargeant, who is going to be going over a really awesome topic for us this evening. We also have Dory O'Neill here, and I'm going to kick it over to these two gentlemen and get us started, and then I will be back when they are all done. So take it away, guys. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. Well, welcome everyone. This is a really special night for me because I get to introduce my buddy, my friend of 30 years, a man that has both helped me achieve a lot in my life and been a mentor, teacher, somebody I've looked up to. But more importantly, working with him over the years in the company that we co-owned and made into a big success. I watched Jay single-handedly literally work with hundreds of thousands of people and lead them to success, unbelievable success, financial success, weight loss success, emotional success. And it's a real pleasure to let you know that Jay will be a regular guest. This is just the day one of a very long journey that's going to happen. And tonight you're getting something that is very near and dear my heart. It's the Trinity training that Jay does. I'm going to paste into the chat right now the link so you can all pull it up. It's there now for you to review. And so with that said, I will turn it over to Jay and I will just sit back and learn as I always do whenever he's sharing information with people. Go take it away, Jay.
Thank you so much, Dory. Dory, it's a pleasure to be here. And I see some faces that I know. I got a wave from Brett Gurney, who I've known for God knows how many years, about 25 years, and my dear friend Jen Sephora. And it's just wonderful to be here. I know that this is a new experience for everyone, certainly a new experience for me. I can barely pronounce everybody's name. I think I'm doing pretty good. I rehearsed all day long, Kari. So I'm getting close. What I'm going to share tonight is what Dory just described as the Trinity. But before I bring up the screen and we go on to the formal training, I want to give it a proper setup, a proper background. You need to know a little bit of the backstory to appreciate this. Many years ago, on the heels of an enormously wonderful and successful franchise development campaign where me and a few members of my team sold 150 $250,000 franchises in less than 2 years. I got a little bit burnt out, and I'm not really good with psychological and emotional pain. When I'm not having a good time, there's a hankering to move on. I don't know if you can all relate to that. So I decided that I was going to make a shift, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I had just fallen in love with a young woman in Southern California in the Santa Monica area. I didn't really want to move back to the Boston, New York place. I was born and raised in Boston. I had an offer in New York, and I didn't really want to go there. And one night, very late at night, by an Olympic swimming pool in a lovely area of Los Angeles called Marina del Rey, I was sitting on a chaise lounge. There were 250 empty seats late at night by this Olympic swimming pool, and I was contemplating, I was thinking, I was cogitating. And all of a sudden, this bald-headed guy in short pants with a baseball cap sat down next to me, and he said, "A penny for your thoughts." And I thought, oh my goodness, does he really want me to talk? Because I never have a short story. I'm the master of the long metaphor, the long story. So I asked him politely, "Do you really want to hear what's on my mind? Because I'm in between trapezes." And he said, "Absolutely, unload on me." And I went 5 or 10 minutes describing my thoughts. And he got up suddenly, and I went, "Oh my God, I bored him to death. He's leaving." And he said, "No, I'm not going. I'm going to go get something. After listening to you, I know I'm going to go get something." So I waited, and he came back with a book called Frogs into Princes. And it was written by Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And it was the seminal work of a body of work called neurolinguistic programming. Two social scientists from the Santa Cruz campus decided to create a speed therapy. They were taking on Sigmund Freud and psychodynamics and long-term therapy. They said, why should someone go 3 times a week, 50 minutes a session for $200 a session to basically know less about themselves and make fewer changes that really last? So their mission was to amalgamate a series of brilliant therapies, put them all together, and create a change agent that would help people make change, sustainable change, quickly and inexpensively. That became NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming. And they took Virginia Satir, brilliant therapist, the mother of family systems therapy, Fritz Perls, the father of Gestalt therapy, and the enormously brilliant hypnotherapist, Milton Erickson, and they put it all together to create a body of work that all over the world, every single therapist, everything social worker, psychiatrist, anyone who was in the helping environment, the counseling environment, adopted NLP as at least part of their modality to help people create a better life. I read the first 11 pages of this book while this man was sitting next to me on a chaise lounge, and it was like electric. I went out of my mind. I said, oh my God, this is brilliant. I turned and he got up and he left. I said, where you go? He says, that's it. He said, that's what you should do with the rest of your life. And I went upstairs to my bride, Lee, and I said, honey, we're not going to New York. We're not taking that big chunk of change. We're not going to develop this franchise, which became, by the way, Boston Chicken. And we're not going to be in franchising anymore. I was born to be an NLP trainer. I read this book, or at least the first 15 pages by that point, and this is what tomorrow morning I begin to do. I got on the phone and I called up Miracle Auto Paint in the Bay Area, a client of mine in franchise development. And I said, I'm an NLP trainer, send me $5,000 and I will do an afternoon training for all of your people. And it's going to change your life dramatically. This is after reading the first 50 pages. But I just absolutely knew when I read the body of work, when I read Frogs into Princes, that this was exactly, therapists were doing it to create change. But I knew that my brothers and sisters in sales were doing it every single day when they were good. When I was good, this is the way that I was good. And I said, I'm going to bring this to corporate America. So I got a great opportunity. It was an open playing field. Everyone was using it as a therapy. I turned it into a business development program called Paradigms of Persuasion. Some of you will eventually get your hands on that body of work. And I shared it for a number of years, sold $11.2 million of it to corporate America in every sales sector, the real estate sector, the financial sector, automotive sales, real estate sales. I had clients in every single sales sector, and we had the time of our life. And you know, at the end of the day, I was making really good money. I mean, our company was extremely successful. But again, I got a hankering. I said, if this is so good, if this body of work is so good, why am I selling it to someone else to build their company? Why don't I test it? Why don't I do the one thing that consultants never do? Instead of teaching, why don't I use it and build something big for myself, for my family, for those I love, for those I don't even know right now, and build equity? And that's how Dory and I met, because I took the NLP model and I poured it into a thing called Essentially Yours industry. And we went from 1 bottle sales to 6 million bottles of sales, from 56 distributors in Canada to 690,000 distributors just in Canada and the US. And then God knows how it got bigger and bigger and went all over the world. So we actually applied what I'm going to begin to teach you tonight in the real world, tested it, and proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. So I'm going to give you a little slice of it right now. Let me see if this works, Dory. I'm always a little bit, okay. Can you all see that, Dory? Do you see it?
Yep, yep.
Is it the right size? Should I make it just a titch smaller so we can see?
Yeah, whatever, a little bigger on my, well, it depends on everybody's screen.
Okay. I'll make it a little bigger. Okay. So first I want you to understand the core thought, the core supposition of neurolinguistic programming. If you want to be great at anything, the best and most efficacious way to create that greatness is to model it, is to study people in the area that you want to pursue, the best of the best. Let me just be really simple about this. If you wanted to be 10 years ago the greatest golfer in the world, what would be the best move you could make? You would hire Tiger Woods for a week and follow him around. You would model what he ate, how he exercised, what he thought, what is pre-course strategy, what is management of the course, which clubs, how is he practicing, how many balls did he hit before he actually got onto the course. You would study what clothes he wore, everything. Expert modeling has a brilliant course structure, which basically says to be the best, study the best. So what we did at our company, Paradigms for Excellence, is and I'll tell you exactly what we did. We went into the first few clients. Remember, we ended up with $11.2 million worth of billing, but it wasn't, we weren't doing $100,000, $200,000, $1 million accounts from day one. We were doing $5, $10, $15, $25,000 accounts. But what was valuable in those first 6 to 12 months was we got an opportunity to study sales forces. Because every single time I landed a client, I went to the executive vice president of sales at the bank, at the financial institution, at Toshiba Medical, Epson Computer, Northwestern Life Insurance, and I said, let me hang with your top 25 people for a weekend. I'm going to pretend to create a sales script for your company, which extracts the genius from your team. But what I'm really going to do is I'm going to study the best people. You have 10,000 life insurance salesmen. Give me the top 25. Not only will we study their language patterns, but we'll ride with them. We would spend 3 full months before launching a customized program into any sales organization. So we could literally study the small group of geniuses that were leading the pack. That was expert modeling. What I'm going to give you right now is a snapshot, the first layer of what every single sales genius we had the opportunity to study, what they indicated, what they showed. And it was the Trinity. First and foremost, every single sales genius that we studied had requisite variety. And in your fill-in later on, or you could just jot it down, requisite variety is a fancy schmancy term for flexibility. There is a law in communication that basically says in any man or machine, the part with the most variability is in control of the mechanism regardless of its relative size. What in God's name does that mean, you ask yourself? I'll give you a real clear example. Imagine two 35-year-olds, both of them married couple, both of them professors, both of them very knowledgeable, really, really powerful, wonderful parents. They bring their 2-year-old, big mistake, they bring their 2-year-old into a fancy French restaurant. I have 3 daughters who I have grandchildren. I raised them babies. I would never take a child to a French restaurant. But in this example, for clarity, the two 35-year-olds bring the 2-year-old to the French restaurant. And what does the 2-year-old do? Those of you who are parents and grandparents, the child acts out. The child squirms, makes noise, bothers everybody. In that environment, what do the parents do? They take the kid out of the restaurant. So the part that was the smallest part, the 2-year-old part, controlled the two 35-year-olds. So the law in communication is the part with the most variability, the part with the most ability to change, controls the mechanism. So when we studied greatness in communication, what we found was flexibility, adaptation, the ability to start with a presentation, but figure out in that environment, what are the subtle shifts and changes that would make all the difference in the world. So first and foremost, great communicators, great marketers, great salespeople, great politicians, anyone who's in any position of communication leadership, the person with the most flexibility is in control of the mechanism. Now, when you take flexibility and combine it with sensory acuity, you've got a heady brew. Sensory acuity means, when you fill it in later on, sensory awareness. And I'm going to give you an example of where Richard and John came up with the importance of sensory acuity. Number one, Virginia Satir's What is Family Systems Therapy? Virginia would see a man or a woman all alone, help them make some changes. Then they would come back and she would notice that the changes basically collapsed. What happened to the agreements that we made? Pretty soon, Virginia realized, you know what? When I send that individual back into their family environment, there's something going on that compromises, that sabotages the changes that we agreed. Why not just bring the whole family in? So Virginia Satir did this interesting thing where she would bring in the entire family, aunts and uncles, grandparents, all of the kids, and she would put them in an environment where she would then watch very carefully, listen very carefully, sensory awareness. She had the ability to see when someone was saying something, how someone over here was reacting. So what I noticed as we studied greatness in sales is not only were great salespeople, great marketing people, great communicators, flexible, but they had the sensory awareness to pick up subtle, sometimes not so subtle information that allowed them to make the proper changes in their presentation. You know, there's no greater sin in sales than rote training. When we would audit companies, human resource departments, and what we would do naturally is not only would we would study the greatest salespeople in an organization, but we would go inside the human resource department and take their trainings. Way back when, I don't think anyone does this anymore, but way back when, there were actually sales training organizations that memorized scripts, 100% scripted presentation. Well, what's wrong with that? There's no flexibility. There's no requisite variety in that. There's no change. No, I'm not making, I've given 10,000 sales presentations in this lifetime in every area of sales. And I'm not saying that you don't go in with a prepared presentation, but the most gifted communicators can make small but vitally important changes based on their understanding that they need to be flexible, and then they pick up information. When we get into this work, and we're going to share it all with you over the next year or two, that's for sure. When we get into it, what you're going to see is that some people have the ability to have what we call an external frame of reference. They walk into a room and they pick up information everywhere. They sit down and they have a one-on-one and they are picking up, they're watching how people are breathing, how people are moving, the intonation and the tonality of their speech patterns. They're picking up all that information, an external frame of reference. The most boring people you know, the family members that are so ridiculously boring and tedious and stuck, basically stuck, are people that have no external frame of reference. They're just like a bull in a china shop. They say the same ridiculous, offensive thing over and over, and they're not willing or able to make any kind of a shift. So when you combine requisite variety, flexibility with developed sensory acuity or sensory awareness, you become really gifted, really gifted. And last but not least in the Trinity is every great communicator has a plan going into the communication. So the fill in here and outcome based would be plan. And what I mean by that is anytime you are engaging in an interaction, a communication, a conversation, what you want to do is you want to, before you get onto that phone, before you get into that messaging, before you do that one-on-one or 5-on-10 presentation group or single presentation, you want to ask yourself, where do I want this thing to go? I'm starting at A, but every great communicator starts at A, but knows exactly what Z is. You understand exactly where they're going. What's the outcome that I want to create in this communication? So when you're outcome based and you're sensory aware and you understand the need to make subtle but sometimes profound shifts, changes, flexibility, that's the expert model. Now, I have to tell you something. I'm just going to share something really, I hope, interesting to you. I have sold $1 billion worth of things in this lifetime, from weight loss supplementation to training programs to, oh, somebody's waiting to get in. Let me let them in. Sold a lot. And I'm not a good closer. That's not my skill set. My skill set is opening. My skill set is using the model I've just shared with you to make a instantaneous connection, to build rapport immediately. When you put this trinity together, you become a lean, mean communication machine and you pick up information and immediately you make connections that allow you to have the time of your life in sales and marketing. I've had a great life in sales and marketing because I learned this body of work. I use this body of work. It makes every exchange joyful. I'm never under any pressure because I know first and foremost, I'm going to teach you a model to create instant rapport that will blow your mind. It comes a little bit later on down the road, but believe me, I'm going to share it with you. But there was a moment in time. I'm just going to share one fascinating, at least to me, fascinating experience. I launched a franchise company in the Bay Area. We had one unit in Los Angeles, and I went up to the Bay Area and I gave two presentations, one at the Embarcadero Hyatt and one at the famous St. Francis Hotel on Nob Hill. And in 21 sessions, follow-up sessions from a presentation I made the night before in those two locations, I took $25,000 checks from people who had only seen me the night before and had a 1-hour personal meeting with me. At the 35-minute mark, I took 20 out of 21 checks with no closing ability. When I first got into sales, I thought, oh my God, I got to read every book in the library on closing skills. No, it's not closing that makes the win. It's knowing this model and opening in a way that creates a connection, safety, and rapport in the other individual so that both people are winning constantly. So just like, I mean, one of the great influences of my life was Og Mandino. I've read all of everyone's work in sales and persuasion. Og is my favorite because basically he said sales is love. If you love the other person enough, if you show that love, if you make that connection, then instead of an adversarial, we're across from one another, let's get alongside of one another. It's the way that this model teaches people to be extraordinary. And when we shared it, let me be really clear. What I'm about to offer you in the next probably 90 days through, we're going to share the paradigms of persuasion and create a whole course for you. I'm going to take the 3 days of training that we did for corporate America, which we charged $900 per participant. And basically, I'm just going to hand it to you because together we are going to build Shoppy Shop. We're going to use this communication technology, these strategies to help each and every one of you build the biggest team you've ever built in your life. The biggest team you've ever built in your life. I'm excited. I'm excited because I love the beginning. I'm excited because I've had an opportunity in the last few days to meet the owners and the managers of this company. I'm excited because Brett chose to do this, and I really have tremendous respect for his choices. Dory and I are like brothers by another mother. So when he wants to do something, wow, I want to do it with him. I love Jen. I've loved her for years. She was massively important in our huge organization. So there's some good folks that I already know, and there's some new folks that I'm going to really get to know well. But together, we're going to put our arms around one another. We're going to share some great training, and we're going to do some big things together. But can I be honest with you? Visit with me next Wednesday night. Visit with me next Wednesday night, because what stokes me, whoa, and floats my boat is weight loss. We sold 6 million bottles of a product called, I broke this bottle. I don't know if you can see, it's called Caloret. This is a little sample bottle and I keep breaking it. But in any case, we sold from 1 bottle to 6 million. And we know, our team knows how to most effectively and simply and elegantly market a weight loss product. And I am so sky high on our GLP patches. So next week, if you join me next Wednesday night, I will do a little introductory program about the same length of time as this one here on everything we did right when we launched from day one a weight loss product called Caloret, a spectacular product called Caloret. But I think these patches are a revolution. I think these patches are mind-blowing. And we certainly know the marketplace needs weight loss. So next week, tune in, same time, same place, and I'm going to do a little mini 30-minute training on exactly. You're going to get the expert model of the expert model on every move we made to go from 1 bottle to 6 million bottles. And we're going to do it with the patches, and we're going to do it in a lot less time with a lot less effort, and we're all going to do it together. So, Dory, I'm pretty much done for tonight. That's the beginning of the beginning of the beginning.
Wow. Well, it's really exciting, Jay. It's kind of like the band came back together. We got the old and dogged Brett Gurney, and we got the lovely and multilingual Genevieve Stipura. And then the other member of the band who I know is watching tonight is Dr. Nelson. Dr.
Oh, of course.
Nelson was part of the band. And one of the things that I want to share with you, because I came in to the company that Jay's referring to, EYI, kind of in the same role as a strategic consultant. I helped them in the beginning and made a few introductions and did some other things. But I was able to take this armchair seat. I was like on the front lines watching Michael Jordan do swooshes, and it was Jay Sargeant that I was watching. And so we have this small group of people that were really starting to get going. And then I watched families that may be struggling, families that had a dream but didn't know the course, didn't know how to go from A to B. And I watched Jay literally put his arms around this collective group of people across Canada, across the United States, across the world. And we created 24 millionaires from people that had obscure jobs. Some people were wearing chicken suits, true story. Some people were hairdressers, some people were butchers, and it just went on. One guy we met, who who knows, maybe he's going to join our team, he was living in his car. You know who I'm talking about. So you have something that's coming your way that is so valuable. People and businesses have paid Jay literally millions of dollars. You're in the beginning. You made a decision to join something. We now have something that I am highly aware of. Its efficacy and the ease of use and the value that's going to allow you, if you learn what Jay is going to teach you, and you're not going to be paying a fortune for this, you're going to be able to gain those same advantages. I call them in some ways unfair advantages against other companies, and be on a path for weight loss. And tune in tomorrow night. But you can do yourself a big favor, because you should be inviting everybody that you know in Shoppy Shop, whether they're really active or inactive, just to be there, because Jay's going to be interviewing Dr. Nelson tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Thursday night at 6 o'clock. He's going to do a little bit of a get to know Dr. Nelson, reinvigorate the group. And so anyways, Jay, I'll leave it to you to close this off.
All right. I didn't know I was going to be with Dr. Nelson tomorrow night. I thought I was on for next Wednesday night, but I'm excited. Dr. Nelson is brilliant, compassionate, enthusiastic, and he's going to give us a tremendous amount of guidance on these patches. I'm not going to ruin tomorrow night's. I love patches because, from my perspective, the number one target when you're building a business is having a product line that has a absolute dramatic effect on the customer. And I have always, and tomorrow night I'll share it, but I have always been attached to the weight loss industry because I was a fat little boy. I had a 44-inch waist when I was 13 years old, and I've been on a diet for I'm 78 now. I've been on a diet for over 70 years. There's not a morsel of food I've eaten in 70 years that I don't have a whole slew of thoughts. And network marketing and the products that we've shared and the products that we take have created an enormous breakthrough. So tomorrow night, I'm going to be with Dr. David Nelson. We're going to break down all of the patches. Honestly, my focus is going to be on the GLP patch. I've got a whole bunch of ideas about it, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be part of this wonderful, brand new group. We're going to touch people all over the world. God bless you. Thank you, Dory, for getting me on here. I love it.
Perfect. And Ashley, you want to close it off?
I absolutely will. Thank you both, Jay and Dory, so much. This was a great call. If you guys can put let's do some eights because we launched on an eighth. So let's put some eights in the chat and give it up for these guys. Throw those hearts up, whatever you want to do. Just show them your appreciation. I'm really excited for this. I'm taking notes over here. So I'm super excited for next Wednesday. So you heard it. Come back next Wednesday. But first and foremost, come back tomorrow night. And we are going to have, I believe, a quick overview first, and then we are going to dive in and talk with Dr. Nelson and about these patches that we have released. I have my ordered. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to do this. So thank you both so much. Everybody else, we will see you tomorrow night. Same Zoom, same time, same place, and the same faces here that are going to be joining us again. So we will see you guys tomorrow night, Thursday night, and I look forward to seeing both of you and everybody else here. Have a good night,
Hey,
everybody.
Brad, how'd I do?